Here we go, George, up and riding.
Well, this is George using that priority gift right away, and he pushes hard on the rails. Second turn, a nice little jam in the pocket. Wraps it quickly, moving into his final point, and he makes Medina pay.
We have to reflect on the magic run of George Pittar in this contest. It was as tough a draw as you could basically script, and he got the job done. He beat 7 world titles to get this victory. Unbelievable. And we're only looking at the finals bracket here, but before getting to this point in the comp, he overcame Felipe Toledo in the first round that he surfed, and then Leo Fioravanti to get his spot in the quarters.
Yeah, unbelievable. And then coming up against Iago, the world champ in the quarters, and then Italo Ferreira this morning, and then probably the biggest task of all, coming up against Gabriel Medina in the final. But this is yesterday, quarterfinal action, and you can just, it's unquestionable how well he's surfing at the moment, and how far the surfing has improved since last year. And he's really starting to feel it now. He's put in the hard work, and he's just, mate, he's on a roll.
Oh, even the end to that heat, came down to the last 5 seconds, right? I mean, talk about nerves of steel. I think he's kind of had every sort of scenario play out, and let alone, he's had the hardest draw on the road to the victory here. You go Iago, and then that clutch moment at the end, and then to Italo, the fastest guy on tour, who's just so twitchy and kind of makes you second guess every thought. But, while you have priority, he's always operating and always giving you something to think about. So George really adapted in every single heat to the opponent and rose to the occasion.
Yeah, he did, and he got great work done under priority against, we heard Taj Barrow saying that he felt Gabriel Medina was, the most deadly person that he'd ever seen without priority, and George did a Gabriel Medina too, the 3-time world champ.
Yeah, he stayed really busy and just utilised his strengths on the waves that he caught too. In the final, there was that little moment where Medina paddled for that wave and handed priority back to George. And sure enough, that magic wave came through, but he had to convert on it. He still had to surf it. He still had to extract all the points out of it, which he did. And then realising the moment where it all just happened, and celebrations all round.
Yeah, he is part of a pack. Gabriel Medina, we've got to talk about this guy's form. Incredible. Goes into the yellow jersey, now heading in the top 3. Typically, he's had some decent starts on the Australian League, but starting with the momentum and consistency that he's had is, danger signs for the rest of the field. But, today it's George's moment, and he rode the chariot to the top of the stairs and was carried on the shoulders of a group of surfers who he's battled away with on the Challenger Series. And he was deeply wounded being cut last year. Took him a while to recover, Rick.
He sure did. Even for the months after he got knocked off tour, he wasn't the same George. He was down. He had to do a lot of work to really, recalibrate the mind. He did a lot of work on his physical fitness. He did a lot of work on his surfing, and it's all paid off, mate, hats off to him. Incredible performance.
Yeah, and I heard him saying to Vaughan, he wasn't fearing losing like he had in the past. He's willing just to lay down his hardest surfing. It's helped him fetch big scores already this season and helped him get his first CT win. On the women's side, Lakey Peterson breaking through for a 7th championship tour win. There is no easy road to victory at this level, and Lakey stepped up in a big way, used her experience to overcome some really tough opponents.
Oh, totally. I think for me, Lakey throughout this event, it was just every heat. Look at the quarter. She was matched up against Caroline Marks, and then you can see Sawyer Lindblad in the semi, and obviously Luana in the final. I just think it was just a veteran approach, and it really lent itself to experience, because obviously she's had a win out here before in 2019, but we saw a lot of different moods and faces of Margaret River over the last couple of weeks, right? And I feel like it's lent itself to experience. She's seen a lot of, how many events has she put in here, to be getting up into the double digits. So, just to have that experience and listening to her talk in her post-heat interviews and sort of identify, what was the winning formula in each heat. I think it just speaks to, just the maturity in her surfing and how well she's obviously working with Leandro at the moment too.
Totally. Really consistent through that bracket. And when you looked at the quarterfinals, they were stacked. Carissa Moore, Gabriela Bryan, Molly Picklum, Caity Simmers, all the kind of high-pegged surfers to make the final and win the event were there, but Lakey just stuck to her guns. She got to work. You know, the heats weren't necessarily incredibly high scoring, but she always came out on top, and she worked her way to win all the way through. She even said it, I think, prior to the semis. You know, I feel like I haven't put my best surfing down yet, and it's still to come. But in the final, she made some really calculated decisions and just some really good foundational surfing, sticking to the rail game and doing what she did best.
There was some real size in the early stages of the window too. This is an event where Lakey found another gear in heavier water. And you have to have that if you're going to get a win here. She showed that in the earlier rounds. Real commitment to those final sections and a march up the ladder. Looking forward to seeing how high she goes on the leaderboard. But a huge day for Leandro Dora as well, who had Lakey and Luana in that final. And he was reassuring Luana that she has the talent. She's building towards a CT victory. A few finals now without the W.
Yeah, it's going to sting for sure. But, I mean, Lakey had some nice words to say to her. You know, your win is just around the corner. You've made a few finals now. It's only a matter of time. But, yeah, to me, it was just Lakey just had such a good read on the wave selection. Like you brought it up, Rich, maybe not exactly the gear she wanted to click into, but she did the best with the opportunity that she had in the heats, and sometimes that's all you can do. And, you know, it was the same opportunity for both Luana and herself, and really it came down to the last wave in the last few seconds of the heat and her, you know, getting that last score, and that was the decider. So she fought right up until the end, and it was a good final though, because that final did swing back and forth. Yeah, Lakey had the win, the lead, and then it was Luana, and then it was Lakey. So, yeah, just the never say die attitude, and I think that win lended itself to experience for sure.
Let's have a look at the GWM Aussie Treble rankings. Medina didn't get the victory today, but he is back on top, and he will be wearing that yellow jersey. If it wasn't for George Pittar, Flick, and he got knocked out earlier today, we would have 5 Brazilians sitting at the top of the GWM ranking.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier this morning, that might have been a possibility. I mean, George is holding down the fort for Australia at the moment, which is pretty incredible, but you cannot deny the power behind, you know, Brazil at the moment. It's been incredible. The showing at Bells to continue that over here to main break it has been nothing short of amazing. And look, you know, I even look at those rankings there, but I see a couple of big names not in there. I don't see Ethan Ewing. I don't see Jack Robinson. So things are looking different. And, you know, we're coming to the last event on the Aussie Treble, you know, coming up to the Gold Coast. You've got to be thinking that Ethan Ewing and Jack Robinson are probably going to want to put in a pretty good showing there.
Sure.
Yeah, as you said, the dominance of the Brazilians is one story. There is another huge story unfolding at the bottom end of the Men's Championship Tour rankings, which we'll get to in a moment. But on the women's side, let's have a look at the leaderboard. After stop number 2, Gabriela Bryan maintains at the top, although she is tied on points with Lakey Peterson, and the reason Gabby holds that number 1 position is her heat score average across these first 2 events, slightly higher than Lakey Peterson's. But Molly Picklum, right where she needs to be. She's been surfing pretty well. But Luana Silva, great to see her up in the top end. And, you know, I think just the consistency she's bringing now has elevated her place on this tour, and looking deadly for a win at some point this year.
Yeah, for sure. Another one who is just really starting to ooze confidence and realise her dream of being at the top of the tour, the top of the surfing world, and so close. I know that would have stung for Lulu today, but she should take some solace in the fact that her surfing has been just brilliant throughout the week, and even at Bells last year. So she's in striking distance, but a good-looking top 5 there. Gabriela Bryan, she's going to be hard to stop when we get up to the Gold Coast, or over to the Gold Coast, should I say. But a good mix of kind of veterans and new school floating around there. So far from over, those ones.
And much like the men's tour, there is an incredible story unfolding toward the back end of the rankings on the women's side, because you've got Stephanie Gilmore, Carissa Moore, 2 world champs that have made their return, Flick, and are still looking to get themselves up into that title conversation.
Oh, totally. And you know what, though? I don't have any shadow of a doubt in my mind, though, because you think to those events, and also those women have really experienced this. You know, we've obviously had a change in the format, which is the accumulative point system. You know, Stephanie Gilmore and Carissa Moore, yeah, okay, maybe not the starts to the year that they probably envisioned, but they're not going to be worrying about that. I think, like, they know this year's long, especially with the accumulative points. They're coming to the Gold Coast, where they both had success, obviously, in the past. That's Steph's home. I don't think they have anything to worry about.
Carissa's surfing is right where it needs to be. She's lost out in a couple of close heats. Steph, I think, is probably feeling a little bit more concerned, but this third stop couldn't have been coming at a better time. She's heading home, and she's just been a force there since she was a teenager. Cutting school to win her first championship to her event, so that's going to be fun to watch. We're going to have a big day for CI when you start thinking about the Surfboard Empire Shaper Rankings presented by Vaya. They have made a massive climb to the top of the table here.
Holy, move over Lost. I mean, this is like, this is pretty interesting because Lost absolutely dominates, undefeated over the last few years. But yeah, big wins from obviously Lakey, and then we've got George Pittar on the men's side. So this is really, really big news. But look, things are still relatively close, just under 1,000 points separating the two. But it's just cool to see some movement on the leaderboard because I haven't seen this for a while.
Yeah, a little bit of a change up to what we're normally seeing. Lost been incredibly dominant over the last couple of seasons, and of course we only take the sort of two top results now for the surfers on the men and women's side, but Channel Islands getting the double victory today.
Huge result for Channel Islands. Britt Merrick getting a lot of credit from George Pittar and Lakey as well. Well, we're 2 stops in to the GWM Aussie Treble. Next up, we do have the Gold Coast Pro. Can't wait for it.